Hi Yorkies! Today we are going to make soft circuits with LED lights, batteries, and conductive string.
The first thing that we want to do is think about the kind of circuit we want to make and how it will connect. We're going to make a simple circuit with one LED light and one battery. We want to make sure that there are wires leading to the negative side of the battery, going through the battery and coming through the positive to the other side of the LED light. It's always important that our energy has a circuit to travel in. On a piece of paper, we're going to draw the plan for our circuit. So, if I want to have an LED on the nose, I'm going to think about where I would want the battery pack. Maybe right here. Then I want to have one wire that will go to the LED and one wire that will come back to the battery. That way, I need to make sure that the threads of both wires never touch each other. I'm going to transfer this plan onto the piece of felt that I want to work with. I'm going to use chalk to mark out where I want the LED, where the batteries will go, and where the wires will go. I never want to put the thread too close right there because then the threads might touch.
Once I've drawn my circuit onto my piece of fabric with chalk, I can add my LED light. I'm going to go over to the LEDs and pick one up. I notice that one side is curled and one side is straight. We have only curled the negative side so that you know that if all your lights, this one is the negative and needs to be connected to the negative side of the battery. I'm going to cut a little hole in my felt where I want my LED light to come through. And then I'm going to try to stick it through the hole. I want to make sure that my LED is on one side of the felt and that the wires are on the other side of the felt. Here's my little LED, and here are the wires on the other side. To start sewing, I'm going to start sewing through the curled end of my LED light. I'm going to make sure it's really tight and that I've gone through about 5 times to make sure I have a good connection. Once I've done that, I'm going to start sewing towards my battery down the drawn line. I'm going to use a running stitch going up and down to do it. Once I've stitched to the battery, there's a few ways that I can attach it. Number 1, I can add a battery holder. This is a sewable battery holder. I can glue gun it onto my felt and then just stitch through these tiny little holes. But if you don't have a battery holder, you can make your own battery pocket like I made for my Steam Girl badge. On one side of the battery, I have a bunch of conductive thread attached to the positive side. On the other side of the pocket, I have a bunch of conductive thread attached to the negative side. The most important thing is that they never touch, and the only way they can touch each other is through the battery, which will light up the lights. So here's how we're going to make it. I found a little piece of blue fabric. I want to make sure my pocket's not too big so the battery's not sliding around, or too small so it doesn't fit in. So I'm going to place the battery in and make sure that I'll be able to sew down all the sides. Then I'm going to take a little safety pin and pin it into place. Next, I need to take some pliers and curl my other wire. Once I have my second side of my LED curled, I'm going to sew it just like the first side. I'm going to sew around that new circle, getting really, really tight and making sure that my wires are not touching the other wires that I sewed on the first try. Then I'm going to do a running stitch towards the pocket, stopping before I get there. Once you've completed the second side of your circuit, you're going to be sewing onto your pocket. You're going to jump on your pocket and sew on there, not going near the white. I've used the little safety pin so that I can flap it on and off, but I know exactly where it needs to stay. So I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to jump onto the blue. Make sure I don't go onto the white, but that I'm staying right on top of it. So I'm going to pull my string all the way through and start making an X on the pocket. Remember, once you're done sewing your second circuit and adding your conductive thread to your little flap, you can test it out. You might need to flip over the battery to get at the right spot. Ah! My light is on. Now I can use non-conductive thread to sew my pocket, making sure that there's enough room to get the battery in and out. Now I have my pocket sewn on with non-conductive thread. My battery's in there and my light is turning on. If your light's not turning on, here are some things that you can look for. Number one, check the back and see if there are any loose threads that might be touching another thread, especially around the pocket area. Because if two threads are touching and they don't need to go through the battery, that's called a short circuit, and your piece won't light up. The other thing that you might want to look for is that all of your connections are made strong. So make sure, number one, that your pocket is pushed closed, and then that's working. And then also make sure that there are really tightly, your thread is really tightly around the LEDs. I hope you have fun making your soft circuit.